and the Prime Minister of Nepal, the Right Honorable Mr. K.P. Sharma Oli.
Wonderful. Welcome, everybody, to the World Leaders Forum. This week, the Columbia University community is hearing directly from global leaders about the critical issues facing their nation, region, and international community. Tonight, the conversation continues with Nepal Prime Minister, the Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Oli. It is an honor to welcome you to Columbia University. Before I introduce the Prime Minister, I want to acknowledge special guests with us today, including our university trustees. We are privileged that Professor Jenik, Radon, an accomplished lawyer, scholar, and international counselor, will serve as today's moderator. Professor Radon participated in Nepal's constitutional peace process and served as key drafter of the interim peace constitution in 2006. Thank you for being here, Professor Radon. When President Armstrong welcomed students to Columbia weeks ago, her message to the community focused on the importance of learning and exploration. We are here today in part because members of the SIPA South Asian Association demonstrated an impressive commitment to these principles. The students from the group recently met with Nepal's ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations. They raised the idea of having the Prime Minister speak at the World Leaders Forum during his visit to New York. The response from the mission was a positive one. We are so lucky to have you today. The student leaders developed this program, remained engaged with Nepal's diplomatic representatives, and worked alongside stakeholders within SIPA and Columbia throughout the process. This is a very impressive expression of student leadership, and I commend the students involved for their commitment to taking this idea and turning it into a reality. We're here today to listen to the Prime Minister speak about Nepal's journey to democracy and economic prosperity. We at Columbia are pleased to continue our tradition of hosting leaders from Nepal. This includes the active role the Prime Minister has played as political activist, a youth party leader, a parliamentarian, and a Prime Minister in this national transformation. Please join me in welcoming Prime Minister Oli to Columbia University.
Professors, trustees, and the students of this university.
नेपालका प्रधानमन्त्री केपी शर्मा ओली अहिले कोलम्बिया युनिभर्सिटीद्वारा आयोजित वर्ल्ड लिडर्स फोरममा बोल्दै हुनुहुन्छ। बाँकी वाकै सम्बोधनबाट सुनौ।
In our Nepali culture, we regard places of learning as temples of wisdom. And when I am standing here, I feel as though I am standing in one of the grandest temples of all. I extend my heartfelt thanks to you, Madam Provost, for this gracious invitation. Today, I wish to speak about my country Nepal's journey to democracy and economic prosperity, a journey which is full of struggles, sacrifices, and persistent hope. A nation steeped in history, Nepal, nestled in the lap of the majestic Himalayas, is a country that boasts a history as ancient as time itself. The roots of our civilization stretch back over 5 millennia. While our past is steeped in spiritual and cultural treasure, the modern history of Nepal begins in the year 1768, when our ancestors, under the leadership of the then king, Prithviraj Shah, unified a series of small, fragmented principalities into a single nation. This was a monumental moment, making the foundation of modern Nepal. It is a coincidence of history that this unification occurred around the same time the United States of America adopted its Declaration of Independence. The two struggles of nationhood were taking place at the same time in human history. Yet they were oceans apart geographically. For Nepal, the road to modernity and democracy was not a straight path. For 104 years, under the Rana oligarchy, the people of Nepal endured the tyranny of an authoritarian regime that suppressed their freedoms and stifled their potential. The first dawn of democracy, the year 1951, marked a turning point in Nepal's history. After years of struggle, the Rana oligarchy was overthrown. The dawn of democracy had arrived in Nepal. Yet the utopia of those early years was short-lived. The king soon nipped the democracy in bud, imposing a partyless system of governance known as panchayat system, which was partyless panchayat system. This system, which lasted from 1960 to 1990, prohibited political parties from politics. Despite these setbacks, the flame of democracy was never fully extinguished in Nepal. The people's movements and the triumph of democracy, the flame of democracy flickered once more in 1990, ignited by a massive popular movement known as the Jana Andolan or People's Movement, which compelled the autocratic monarchy to yield to demand for a democratic constitution. The Constitution of 1990 established Nepal as a constitutional monarchy with a multi-party democratic system and enshrined fundamental rights such as freedom of speech, assembly, and association. But unfortunately, before democracy had taken root, the country plunged into conflict. A decade-long armed violence launched by Maoists resulted in the tragic loss of over 17,000 lives. King seized the power once again on the pretext of insecurity and put the undeclared ban on the political parties. In 2006, again, a wave of democracy swept over the shore of Nepali politics as a mass uprising known as yet another Jana Andolan or People's Movement forced the absolute monarchy to relinquish its power. And it also led to the signing of a comprehensive peace accord in November 2006, ending the Maoist conflict and bringing back the country to peace and democracy. In 2008, for the first time in our history, a Constituent Assembly was elected. The first very meeting of the Constituent Assembly took a historic decision to abolish the monarchy, ending the 240-year reign of the Shah dynasty and transforming Nepal from an autocratic kingdom into a democratic republic. This momentous achievement proved the fact that people are mightier than armed violence or autocratic power based on traditional or hereditary. And people are ultimate force to drive the history and shape their own destiny. The promulgation of the Constitution and the road ahead. The Constitution of 2015, written by the elected Constituent Assembly, represents the culmination of Nepali people's 7 decades or more of political struggle and sacrifices. It has provided a stable legal foundation, allowing us to focus on the next phase of our national journey, the pursuit of economic prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, we see democracy as a political and social system in which every person feels dignified, every person sees boundless potentials, and every person feels safe and secure. My lifelong struggle to freedom has shaped a vision of democracy which I call comprehensive democracy. When I say comprehensive democracy, I envision to cultivate an environment and guarantees equal rights, equal access to opportunities, social justice and security, as well as dignity for all. It aims to elevate human conscience and advance civilization to a higher realm. Nepal's economic transformation. Now, let me touch upon our journey of economic development. As early as the mid-17th century, Nepal thrived as a vibrant interpart between India and China. Trade between these two great nations was routed through Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, and so much so that Nepal enjoyed the lucrative privilege of minting silver coins for Tibet, a highly profitable enterprise. However, after the establishment of modern Nepal in 1768, the nation was embroiled to continuous wars for expansion and consolidation for several decades, leaving little room to focus on economic development. For much of the 20th century, Nepal's economy was largely feudal and agrarian with widespread poverty. However, over the past few decades, we have made substantial strides in improving the socio-economic conditions of our people. As we look to the future, our national aspiration remains a guiding mantra: prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. This vision aims to create a society where poverty is eradicated. All are benefited from development and every individual lives with dignity and hope. Madam Provost, Nepal is not designed for economic backwardness. On the contrary, I hold a profound conviction in Nepal's potential for enduring prosperity, which we can achieve within a relatively short span of time. We are a vibrant democracy with a stock of hard-working young population. Nestled between India and China, both of whom have become economic powerhouses, Nepal is uniquely positioned to make its economy dynamic for accelerated economic growth. I am now leading the government formed by two major political parties in parliament, which have played decisive roles in the journey towards democracy and nation building. Our two parties are committed to providing exemplary governance with impeccable standard of integrity and transparency. Nothing is more paramount to us than to bring prosperity and happiness in the lives of our fellow Nepalis. While being fully aware of a formidable path ahead, I am resolute in my determination to propel Nepal into a realm of sustained economic prosperity. Thank you all. I would be happy to engage in an interactive dialogue. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Prime Minister, for sharing your thoughts, since you have been part of the history, the modern history of Nepal. So we hear it right from an actor. Nepal, as you may or may not know, has been dear to my heart because I was instrumental and honored by being a drafter of the interim constitution, which was interim by definition to bring peace to Nepal. And so I'm very glad to welcome you again to Colombia. I'm noted for asking a lot of questions, but I'm going to restrain because students want to ask questions. But I will take the liberty of being the moderator of asking 3 questions. And they're going to be pragmatic questions, at least 2 of them. And democracy has to be sought, has to be lived. But in order to live it, you also have to develop, as you say, give opportunity to the next generation as well as the present. However, you have a challenge. You're landlocked, which is, you have Mount Everest, but you're still landlocked. The result of this also has been that per year, according to the statistics, 1 million people leave Nepal every year, and 100,000 students around the world, including here at Columbia. We enjoy them, we appreciate them, but your country needs them. So the challenge is your education and development. So what steps will you be taking in the near future to make it a home for the million who are leaving, as well as the 100,000 that have left to get education elsewhere?
Thank you, Professor. I talked about the history of Nepal, the political history, and the history of economic development as well. And on the question of economic development, when we are talking about, it is related to the education, health, job opportunities, and the economic other conditions of the country. And without improving appropriate and capable human resource, we cannot develop the country particularly. It is not good that our young population is flying away from the country, and they are being migrated. for education and for job opportunities. Of course, there are not that much appropriate job opportunities in Nepal, so most of the youth who are going outside, they are going for job. So they will be back. People talk about the rush in the airport. Youths are going outside, but they don't take any account of the people who are coming back too. Equally, people are going outside and coming back too. But the number of people who are going outside is larger than who are returning back. Of course, who are going outside for job, seeking jobs, they are coming back. But those who are going for other purposes, for education, for other good, better job opportunities, they are not coming back so soon. Maybe later on they will be back. And we are not talking, as your professor, you asked, that what we shall do. We'll not talk about job opportunities, because job opportunities do not come without any source. But we have to emphasize on the entrepreneurship. So we are trying to develop entrepreneurship and startup projects and trying to attract the youth, and they can put their certificate and get loan, and as well as the women, they can, without any certificate or anything, they can ask for loan and they can get loan for small businesses. In this way, we are trying to create new startups and entrepreneurship, new small entrepreneurship. And at the same time, very bitter fact is that our population, among our population, more than 60% of our population is still engaged in agricultural system, which is very back and traditional one. So we have to modernize agriculture. We have to commercialize agriculture and mechanize. So we can increase the income through agricultural jobs too. So in this way, and providing good education, I think there is not that much poor situation in the country about the education. But there is another type of attraction of outside, because facilities comparatively are less inside country, inside Nepal, than outside. So there is one attraction also. But we are trying to hold them inside country, because without them, without youth, we cannot transform the country into a situation of LDC to developing country, and tomorrow a developed one.
Another question which I have, you've been blessed because you have hydro, you have water. However, if you look into the future, like the rest of the world, climate change is on us, and your glaciers are melting, which means that your major resource, hydro, clean, may not be with you. How are you anticipating meeting this challenge? The glacier...
Thank you, Professor. You raised very important and very timely question. It is very relevant in the present time. Most of the people talk about the rising of sea level and global warming, etc. First, we have to understand, and the entire globe must understand, that the mountains, and particularly the mountains in Nepal, they are the location, the situation of our mountains, and the role of our mountains to maintain climate balance and ecosystem is especially important, because Those are between the line of Cancer and line of Capricorn. That is hot area. The sun goes up to Cancer, line of Cancer, and up to Capricorn. This is hot area. And being situated at the hot area, and those mountains are holding snows, ice, because of the altitude. They are in the hot place, but there is ice. And that is the largest cooling system and charging system of the world, recharge system of the water, and cooling the earth, and cooling the air of that. And mountains are not only important for Nepal, but for entire world, for the entire globe, they are important. So I would like to draw attention of the world that if we talk about the rise of sea levels and the danger of sinking of small island countries, we have to go to the source of the problem. We cannot treat at the end, but we have to go to the source, and that source is the mountain. If the mountain hold enough ice and melt slowly, then they can flow the rivers, create rivers, recharge system, they can smoothly. But if the sea, again there is one ecosystem between the sea and mountain. If the seas are polluted and the polluted cloud goes to the mountain and it collides with the mountain, and that contributes to melt the ice. That is another. And fire in the forest, that is another problem. And in our region particularly, some months before there was a report worldwide, there was known that the most polluted city was Kathmandu at one time. It was for about 1 week or 2 weeks about, because after harvesting the wheat, the hay of wheat was burnt, and the cloud and the smoke and the dust was spread. That created very dangerous pollution in the air. And that is salty, and that is acidic, and that goes to collide with the mountains and the ice melts. That's the problem. So, until now, in my opinion, we are contributing 46% of our land for forest, as well as our mountains are 70%. 46, 70, 63. And rivers and ponds, etc., and lakes, including more than 70% of land, we are contributing for the climate issues. So that is the huge contribution of Nepal. And we are conscious, we are aware about the importance of this issue and for the future. And when we talk about the future, we talk about planet and people. We have to save the planet, we have to save the people, and safer and safer earth and safety of human beings. There are some aspects I don't want to explain now because it will be longer. So, as you asked me, Professor, on the question of climate change, that's our opinion, and we are conscious about that. And we urge the entire world to be conscious and treat at the point of origin from where the problem is from.
Well said. Although we're supposed to start Q&A, I have one more question for you. Our students, many of them are entrepreneurs. Can you tell them why they should join you in Nepal as an entrepreneur? What message would you like to give them?
I would like to request whoever are entrepreneurs or who are not, I would like to suggest them to be entrepreneur. And there are opportunities for a startup. There are other opportunities in Nepal too, speaking in the real sense. So I would like to, and America is developed, not because it was rich. It's developed and become rich. Now China also become rich. Not because it was rich and developed, but they developed and become rich. So we cannot run away. We cannot escape from the problems. We have to develop our country. We have to establish and provide good governance to the people, to the nation. Rule of law. And that rule must be just rule.
Agreed.
So, just rule and rule of law. And there must be opportunity not only for a small chunk of people.
प्रधानमन्त्री केपी शर्मा ओलीले पहिला कोलम्बिया
And the
युनिभर्सिटीद्वारा
benefits
आयोजित
which
वर्ल्ड
all
लिडर्स
the nation
फोरममा
that
करिब
should be
15 मिनट सम्बोधन गर्नुभयो र सम्बोधनपछि
distributed equally.
आयोजक
That is
युनिभर्सिटीको तर्फबाट प्रोफेसरले
opinion.
राखेका
So,
तीनवटा प्रश्नको उत्तर
young people
दिँदै हुनुहुन्छ
who are
र यो
Nepali
तेस्रो प्रश्नको
students,
अन्तिम जवाबपछि
young people,
अब यहाँ
they can return
कोलम्बिया
to the
युनिभर्सिटीका विद्यार्थीहरूद्वारा
return back,
सोधिएका
and
विभिन्न प्रश्नको
they can
उत्तर दिने कार्यक्रम छ
contribute to development.
प्रधानमन्त्री ओलीले
So now let's hear what some of the students, and I'm sure Columbia has a tradition of
अब
asking
कोलम्बिया
good
युनिभर्सिटीका
questions to the
विद्यार्थीहरूले
students. So hopefully there
प्रधानमन्त्री
will
ओलीलाई
be.
प्रश्न गर्नेछन् आफूलाई लागेका
I will
कुराहरू
take 2 or 3
राख्नेछन् र
questions and then
ओलीले
phrase
उत्तर
it for you.
दिनुहुने कार्यक्रम छ
If you could introduce yourself, if you feel comfortable, and what school you are at Columbia would be very helpful. So we'll do one on the right, one on the left, etc.
Hi, my name is Mansi Dahal and I go to the School of the Arts. My question to the Prime Minister Oli would be, like we've been talking about, a vast majority of Nepali youth have been working abroad due to the limited opportunities in Nepal. You and your government has been in power for over decades now. What is this not a concern for you and the government? Because as an emerging nation, I see this as a huge threat to not have the youth in the country. Secondly, you have been saying that you think the youths are important and they need to come back, but why is the older generation like you and other leaders not willing to step down or aside to let the youth run the country? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jonas and I'm a graduate of the School of International and Public Affairs. My question goes to the geography you already talked about. You're located between the 2 most populated countries in the world. How do you balance the relationship with both countries on political and economic levels? Thank you.
Thank you.
One more, and then
Thank you. My name is Callan Zborowski-Fenster. I'm a freshman in Columbia College majoring in political science. My question is regarding rural life in Nepal and outmigration. Since 2021, Nepal has negative population growth rates in over 30 mountain districts. As rural areas are depopulating, urban areas are growing equally as rapid, with this gap increasing by the thousands every passing day. Nepal citizens of rural communities have come out and said that the reasons for this outmigration can be boiled down to lack of economic opportunities in education and healthcare. Also, rain-fed agriculture has been impacted due to climate change and disease, and this has de-incentivized the production of important goods that vitalize the Nepali economy. With these grim prospects, rural populations have been moving elsewhere. You said earlier that a possible plan to combat this outmigration is to increase agricultural-based jobs, but yet these agricultural-based jobs and the communities are the very ones that are leaving due to lack of resources. My question is, as someone who comes from a rural town myself, how does the Nepali government plan on prioritizing these rural populations, which are pivotal to the nation? Thank you.
so I can sum it up a little bit, but I think one of the aspects that has been said, although the balance between China and India is a different one, is the fact of how do you incentivize the rural, the young, to participate, whether in the leadership or in work?
In my opinion, first of all, we have to love our country. If I cannot abandon my mother if she is even poor, I have to look after her problems and try to solve. And if she is poor, I shouldn't hate. I must try to change the situation. We are, and particularly the youth, are not to run away from the problems, but to face the problem and get victory over them. Every country was poor. There were no facility. When in our country there was education, there was medicine, there was treatment, so many things. So many countries were not formed yet. So, we have very glorious history. But because of different selfish rulers and autocratic systems, we didn't get opportunity to develop. And people were, that era was dark. We say dark era of autocracy. And people didn't get opportunity to get rid of that. But finally, people toppled the autocratic system and brought back democracy. Democracy is not a gift. It is a fruit after the fight of the people they got. Similarly, we can, even now, I realize that there are problems, but we can resolve. And we have to be self-confident. We can. And so far the incentive to the youth is even if the adverse situations are not for always. They are until when we tolerate them. If we reject, then they come to another way. And as I mentioned before too, we have provided opportunities to the youths, startups, loans, and other opportunities as well. Yes, of course. The salary in Nepal is not high. But the market is also very cheap. Price hike is not that much. We can buy things at a very cheaper rates. And so far, another trend asks another question, that how we are balancing both giant neighbors. Neighbors are neighbors. There is a saying that you cannot change your neighbor. So we have to understand that we cannot change our neighbors, and our neighbors also cannot change their neighbors too. So we must deal with them. They are not our enemies. They are our friends. So with friends, we have to put our problems, grievances, demands, and whatever our feeling is and what problems we are facing, we can talk to them frankly, candidly, openly, share our views with them, and through the discussion, through the dialogues, we can reach the point with the proof, with the facts, and being based on the truth. We have to deal with them. So we can. But we cannot give up our national interest, sovereignty, independence. Freedom is a must for us. It's very, very important. And Nepali people must be, I would like to tell Nepali students, we are here, must be proud that we have no independent day, because we were never colonized. We were always independent. So it's a matter of glory. And that glory we have to translate into a prosperous country. And we have to make our people happy. And my government's emphasis now is our aim is, our goal is prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. We want to make Nepal a prosperous one, and the Nepali people happy people. That is our goal. And for this, I don't take as two giant neighbors with different political systems and economic systems, etc., as a negative aspect, but that is positive thing. We have, if we can produce, we have already two huge markets of the world. So we can use them, those markets, if we produce. If we do not produce and if we just import and just we become consumers of others, markets of others, consumers of others, and our small country cannot maintain that. Next one, what was the last question?
Well, I think you've answered. We'll get some more questions. We'll start with over here on the right.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from the Graduate School of Education, Psychology, and Health, and I just wanted to ask the Prime Minister, with the discussion of democracy and peace, why Nepal decided to abstain at the United Nations General Assembly on demands of ending the Israeli occupation in Palestine, while other South Asian nations voted in favor.
Good evening, Prime Minister. Namaste. My name is Om Desai. I'm a first-year student at Columbia College studying political science and economics. My question for you is this. I'm the son of two hardworking Indian-American parents. They immigrated from India to the United States almost 30 years ago, and they've always spoke fondly of the relationship between India and Nepal. Our two countries share a very unique brotherhood, very religiously, culturally, and geopolitically. Recently, I know you met with Prime Minister Modi in New York and discussed issues on energy, trade, and more. And so my question for you is this. In the context of the 2015 blockade and also your new and growing relationship with India, how can we best preserve the relationship and create a dynamic relationship between our two countries that evolves with the 21st century and respects the sovereignties and interests of both of our countries in the region?
Okay. One more question over here.
Hi, Prime Minister. My name is Desmond Kuhn. I'm a freshman at Columbia College. And my question is about your neighbor. You were mentioning earlier about how you can't necessarily change your neighbors, so you have to deal with them. So your neighbor China has engaged in more border disputes in recent history. The New York Times reported that, according to satellite imagery, China has been building more villages inside what many would consider to be Bhutan, alongside sending more warships and building more islands in the South China Sea, in what many in the international community to believe not to be China's territory. what are your thoughts on China's current exertion of authority on other nations near and around Nepal? Thank you.
Two of them are continuation of the first one, how you deal with India and China. And the other one is, what is your position on an international issue? So I leave it to you.
International issue, particularly.
Palestine, Gaza, in the sense
Yeah.
that voting.
We are always in favor of peace. We are from the birthplace of Lord Buddha and the fountain of Buddhism. Everybody knows that. And by history, we were always in favor of peace, and Nepal is a very peaceful country. And our ideology is peace, harmony, compassion, tolerance, coexistence. That is our ideology. So, the basic of our foreign policy, we determined that, we coined that, friendship with all, enmity with none. That is our fundamental foreign policy. So, on the questions of wars, conflict, violences, or such things in different parts of the world, like Russia, Ukraine, war. We are not in favor of war, and we are a neutral country. We are non-aligned country. We are between two giant neighbors. We want to be very good neighbor, not bad neighbor. We don't want to create problems for our neighbors too. We don't want. Similarly, we don't, we do not tilt to this or that side, but we want peace genuinely. We pray, we talk, we request, and we make efforts too, according to our capacity, in favor of peace, global peace. We are in favor of disarmament, of course. Construction of this type of weapons and others. We are not in that favor, but we are in favor of. Now we have to abolish weapons of mass destruction. That is our desire, because weapons are not made for to kill the flies or mosquitoes. Weapons are made for what we know. So weapons are never matched with the humanitarian feeling and the ultimate desire and aims and goals and such things of human beings. Now we are seeing Israel and Hamas. Hamas attacked Israel. That was not a good thing. It was bad. But in that name, in that protection, Israel is again destroying the innocent children, innocent old age people who are not involved in war, who are not criminal, and the patients in the hospital who had no crime. They are being killed. So we are in favor of peace, not against anybody. Against war, in favor of peace, we are. And the relationship with India, as I mentioned before too, we want to be a very good neighbor, not bad neighbor. We cannot think against our neighbors and anything bad for them. We cannot think like that. We are always in favor of peace inside any country, inside any region, and globally. We are always in favor of peace worldwide, everywhere. And we want to We have very long history of friendship with our neighbors. Not after the history was written, but before the history. We had very friendly people-to-people relations when there was no diplomacy was developed. At that time too, people-to-people relationship was excellent. And if somebody wants to destroy this friendship between two countries, or if we talk about bilateral relationship with different countries, with both of our neighbors, nobody can. This friendship is undestroyable. It is lasting. Sometime, of course, when people live together, they have contradiction. When you have never met somebody, there cannot be any type of contradiction, because you don't know him or her. When you don't know him or her, then from where the contradiction comes? When you sleep together, then one may put his or her leg on you. If you sleep on separate bed, no problem of that. If neighbor, something happens, one a small girl goes to neighbor, she breaks a plate. And the neighbor says, what training you are providing, what education you are providing to your offsprings? Your daughter broke my plate. The next day, her son comes this side and breaks another cup. Again another neighbor says. These type of things happen between the neighbors. So, if neighbors, inside the family, there are always a little bit small problems, but they are not that much serious. And within family, similarly, between the neighbors, there can be small problems too, because they are neighbors. If they were far away, there couldn't be any problem, but if they are neighbors, there can be. So we have to be responsible, and we must understand each other's problems. So, in my opinion, there are not that much serious problems which we cannot resolve between our southern neighbor and us, and similarly northern neighbor and us. Both neighbors are, I must say, they are good too.
I'm glad you emphasized people to people, because at the end of the day, that's what it takes. People to people, not just at the high level, but at the ordinary, every level. And we need to engage.
Yeah.
Without engagement, we can't understand.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, although we can love to keep you all night, but I think so we'll only take one more question. I think it's from this side. So since I think you want freedom, also freedom to enjoy New York.
Thank you. My name is Alejandro. I'm a sophomore majoring in statistics and political science. Your Excellency, as you have rightly emphasized on the lines of climate change, Nepal, despite being landlocked, is intricately connected to the global environmental ecosystem, including the oceans. Given the shared responsibility we all have in protecting the planet, how would you incentivize coastal nations to mitigate ocean contamination, recognizing that such pollution, through its far-reaching impacts, ultimately affects the high-altitude regions of the Himalayas and the promise of, as you call it, a happy Nepal? What diplomatic or multilateral approaches might Nepal advocate for to ensure that the preservation of the oceans becomes a collective priority, given its vital link to the mountains of Nepal and climate change all around the world?
That's a large question, so I'll leave it to you to answer as you wish.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your question. Again, you raised a question about conservation, climate, etc. How many questions were there?
Excuse me?
How many questions were there?
Well, he's asking the effect of the oceans as well on yours, and what is your position, and how do you handle it? You're all landlocked, so you may not.
Yeah. Ours is a diversified country. Very, very natural diversity, geographical, biological, botanical, social, different type of diversities are there. Mount Everest and other mountains, more higher than 8,000 meters, higher than 8,000 meters. There are some 14 peaks, more than 8,000 meters altitude. There are peaks, but we talk about one range, then there are 800 meters, 8 mountains, more than 800 meters, 8,000 meters altitude. So it's unique. And similarly, there are diversities among the animals, grasses, plants, etc. And animals, fishes, birds, everything. We are conscious about to protect those animals. We have elephant, rhino, and so on. We have dolphins, yaks, etc. at the hilly areas. In the mountain areas, we have elephants and yaks, etc., gaidas, etc. And peacock and other different types of, more than 6,000 or more birds we have. Similarly, varieties of fishes, varieties of animals as well. And it makes ecosystem. And it makes real nature. It makes the nature. Where we can see, we can observe the nature. And we can see not only the beauty of nature, but the
प्रश्नकर्ता कोलम्बिया युनिभर्सिटीका प्रोफेसर र त्यहाँ अध्ययनरत 4 जना विद्यार्थीहरूका जति पनि प्रश्नहरू आएका थिए प्रधानमन्त्री ओलीले ती प्रश्नहरूको उत्तर दिँदै हुनुहुन्छ तर उहाँका उत्तरमा परम्परादेखि जुन पुरानो ढर्राको जुन नेपाली पारा छ उत्तर दिने त्यही पारा यहाँ भने उहाँले दोहोर्याउनु भयो उहाँले पञ्चायतलाई दोष दिनुभयो राजालाई दोष दिनुभयो र उहाँले चाहिँ लोकतन्त्र र गणतन्त्रको अहिले प्रशंसा गर्दै गर्दा धेरै कुराहरू अहिले प्रजातन्त्र आइसकेपछिका कमी कमजोरीहरू सबैलाई ढाक्ने प्रयास र अहिलेको सबै कुरालाई राम्रो भन्दै विगतलाई दोष लगाएर प्रधानमन्त्री ओलीले चाहिँ यसरी उत्तर दिँदै हुनुहुन्छ अमेरिकामा 79औं राष्ट्रसङ्घको यो साधारण सभामा यसरी बोल्दै गर्दा अलिकति तयारी अनि भाषाको समस्या भएको भए एउटा ट्रान्सलेसन सहितको पनि व्यवस्था गर्न सकिन्थ्यो तर अपेक्षित उत्तरहरू आउन सकेनन् यसरी नै टुङ्गिँदैछ वर्ल्ड लिडर्स फोरममा ओलीको मन्तव्य र प्रोफेसरले अब बिट मार्ने क्रममा छन्
I would like to thank all the professors and the students and participants here, and particularly the university who provided me to be here this evening and to address and to exchange opinions and to talk with dear students. It's a great opportunity for me, and I feel proud to be here this evening being together with you. I would like to thank you very much, and I hope again in the future we will meet together.
As I said, you're welcome, and see you next year.
Thank you.